Hello my friends and welcome back. If you guys are new here, my name is Maddie, and if not, then you already know. You're probably actually looking at this background saying, this doesn't look like normal, and I'm actually gonna get into that here in a minute. If you had already read the title, then you already know what this video is going to be about. Our house got flooded. And it was crazy. So let me tell you guys all about it. The morning of August 9th, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning with my husband to get him ready for work. At that time, it was already starting to pour outside. And who knows at what point in the morning or late the night before that it had already started pouring out. The time of like 6:30 when I woke up with my husband, I was already starting to get, flash flood watches, which for this area we live in, we've never really experienced a flood, or at least I personally have never really experienced a flood like this living in this area, and I've lived in this area pretty much all my life. So when we were getting the warnings, I didn't think anything of it because, we get those all the time and we've never experienced flooding like this before. So I thought, it's going to be like any other time and nothing's going to come out of this. It's just going to be warning after warning, and then it's never going to come and everyone can go about their lives like usual. About 11:30 a.m. that I had looked out my kitchen window and I had noticed that my neighbor that lives behind our apartment building was actually starting to get flooding in his backyard. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, okay, is this about the amount of flooding that they're calling for? Because in my head, I'm still thinking, we've had flood warnings before and nothing's ever come out of it. So at this point, I see that my neighbor's backyard is starting to flood. And like I said, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe this is what they're amounting to as, flash flooding or whatever. About 12 p.m., about noon, my husband said that the river was actually getting really, really high. Where he works is our apartment building, the street, his job. And then the river is next to his job. And so he went outside and he said that the river was actually starting to get really, really, really high, like really close to almost going over the bridge at this point. Getting really, really high up and close to the bridge, closer than, what the water usually and normally looks like. And then about 12:20 p.m., I had received an emergency alert on my phone for flooding. I mean, the sound went off and everything, and that's where it kind of like dawned on me in my mind that, okay, this is a lot more serious than I thought it was. Like, now I'm actually getting emergency alerts for flooding, so this is a lot more serious than I thought it was gonna be. About 12:24, when my husband sent me a picture and videos of his job, entire parking lot was flooded and water was starting to come inside of the building. And it really got crazy. And I'm thinking, as long as it stays over there, we're okay. At 12:32, the water started rushing down our street. From where his job was, the water started rushing down towards our street, or down our street and towards our apartment building. At that point, He was stuck where he was and he could not get to us if he wanted to go home. At that point, it was 12:32. I was already getting my kids ready to go up for naps, and I think at that point I had them upstairs because they usually nap around 12:30ish and 1 o'clock. I really try to stick within that schedule of 12:30 and 1 o'clock. And I believe I was either just getting them ready to go up or I already had them up. But after he told me that the water was starting to rush down towards our apartment building down the street, I decided that I was going to go out and start watching the water and make sure that if it was coming too close and I had to, either go upstairs or try to leave with the kids, I wanted to know how much time I had. I wanted to keep an eye on the water as much as I could. It was about 12:40 that I visually could see a whole shed just floating down the river. Or not down the river. Down the street. I mean, the water was so powerful that it picked up an entire shed off of wherever it came from. I have no idea where it even came from. But it completely picked up the shed and started floating the shed down the street. It was crazy. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. Just, seeing a random shed just randomly floating in the middle of the street, heading down towards my apartment. It was just absolutely crazy. It was about 12:57 when I noticed that the water wasn't just coming from the one street that I thought it was coming from. It was also coming from a side street as well. So at this point, I went into panic mode because I noticed water was coming down from not just one, but 2 different sides, and it was gonna collide together and we were gonna get swamped. So at that point, I rushed inside. I started unplugging as much as I could in our downstairs. I started packing a diaper bag. I ran upstairs, I got the kids up, and I was getting ready to run. Luckily, we have a friend of ours that lives right across the street from us that had her truck, and she was able to come over and get us, and we were able to go with her. But from what I said, it was 12:57 when I noticed that the water was coming from 2 different streets. And by 1 o'clock, I had one kid in one arm, another kid in another arm. I had a diaper bag on my shoulder, and I ran out the door. And by 1 o'clock, our entire parking lot was already flooded. No, by the time I got my kids and I to our friend's truck, it was already calf level. But by the time I got even outside the door with my kids, the water was already filling and our parking lot was already flooded. So we evacuated, and my husband was still stuck where he was, and he couldn't get to us, and that's where my anxiety got really, really high. Like, if I needed my husband, he couldn't get to us. And it was really scary for me because I was, it's just me and the kids. I mean, luckily we had a friend with us that was able to pick us up and evacuate us out of there. But it was still such a scary experience that I hope to never experience again. By 1:30, it was announced that the National Guard was actually coming, and they were going to start help rescuing people and rescuing animals. There was whole big army, like, helicopters coming with National Guard, and they started saving people. It was already deemed as a catastrophic flood, and we had been broadcasted on the Weather Channel about us and showing, you know, the National Guard and everything out in the water rescuing people. By 2 p.m., the water was already starting to come down, at least on the streets. It was coming down. My husband told me that he was able to walk from where he was stuck at over by his job a little. He was able to walk down towards our friend's house that lives across from us and at our apartment. So I think it was like kind of close to like 2:20ish, that almost 2:30 maybe, that we came, me and the kids and our friend took her truck back and we came back over here. And at that point, when we got here, I went inside and I started packing us all a bag. And because I already knew that we would not be able to stay here. The outside water level was probably about 2.5, almost 3 feet. And luckily on the inside, our water level that actually got into our apartment was only 2.5 inches to 3 inches. So we got extremely lucky for how much water actually got inside of our apartment versus outside. I want to say it was almost 3 o'clock when we had been told by someone who heard from someone, I don't know how it was heard, that there was possibly another round of water rushing down towards the town. So we grabbed the kids again, we grabbed our bags, and we evacuated once again to the evacuation center, which was actually the local high school. They had waters, they had food, they had, you know, supplies for everybody, they had extra clothes, you know, anything that anybody could possibly need, they had there for everyone. They had buses that were transporting people from town to town, and at the points where they would drop off, there was Red Cross sightings that had the same things, you know, supplies, food, and they were supplying people with places to stay. So we got to the evacuation center 4ish, maybe a little before that, and we were there from 4:30, and we finally got transported. Finally transported from the evacuation center to the other town where the Red Cross sighting was at like 7:30ish. We got there and they supplied us with a hotel room. I had prior plans on the 10th. I was in a wedding, so we weren't able to come back to the apartment and start cleaning. So we didn't get here until the 11th. August 11th was when we actually got in here and we started cleaning out the apartment and, you know, getting rid of everything that was damaged. It took us about 7.5 to 8 hours of cleaning, and at that point we still weren't done cleaning. So we went back, my husband went back to the hotel, I went back to my parents, and then we came back on the 12th and we finished cleaning and we were able to start staying here again. But due to the flooding, we had lost our bed, we had lost our refrigerator, we had lost our dryer, our hot water pump, our rugs, and a bunch of other small insignificant stuff. So we still had lost a lot, but we were a lot more fortunate than others, so I'm very thankful for that. But when we started staying here again, we actually had to start sleeping on the couch. It wasn't until 5 days after the flooding that we had gotten our replacement refrigerator and our replacement hot water pump. And we have now started renting a bed because we lost our bed. And unfortunately, our car had been really damaged from the flooding. On the inside, the inside of my vehicle had gotten 26 inches of water on the inside. The entire interior of my vehicle has been ruined, and there are now a lot of engine issues with the vehicle now as well. I am just thankful that the water did not actually carry our car fully away, like other people's cars were actually being floating down the streets, you know, running into other cars, hitting different things, just floating away. You know, my car. It's not funny, but it's just crazy to me thinking back on how that actually happened. It was like a scene in a movie, honestly. There was full-size sheds just floating, and I'm not just talking about the one. There was a bunch of them just floating. You had campers floating. You had a whole roof going down our river and crashing into our main bridge. Town actually experienced a loss. I don't want to say if it's a loss or not, but a man ended up going missing during the flooding because he tried to rescue his dog. From what I know right now, they still have not been able to find him. There's been search parties, and I don't think he's been located yet. But he went into the water and he tried saving his dog, and he just never came back. The water just kind of carried him away. Very sad situation. So like I said, I'm so grateful for the fact that my kids and I and my husband were all safe. I'm glad that despite we did lose some things, we didn't lose as much as others did. It was just a very surreal, scary experience that I've never personally experienced before in my life, and I hope to never experience again because it was terrifying. So since experiencing the flood, this is our new setup. This is our new bed that we are now renting. And as you can see, the carpet is gone. That carpet did not survive. The carpet that used to be here did survive, but it has a really bad smell, which was making the inside of our apartment like really smell. So we got a new rug that was donated to us. We are now we are now renting this bed. Yeah, that is the crazy nightmare-ish story of our flooding experience. And I'll slip in a few more little clips and videos and some pictures at the end of this video to show you guys what we experienced. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I have so many more videos planned coming up, so I hope you stay tuned to the rest of them. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.